We are going to look today at worksheet 4, and in this worksheet we're using multiplication of fractions to deal with our multiplication property and probability. So let me go and show you where we're going in our course. Remember, you're going to course content, and we're at week 5. So I'm coming down to week 5. And if I scroll down, remember you have 2 worksheets to do this week. The worksheet we're going to look at will be the worksheet 4. So that's what you will click on that, download it, type in the worksheet, and then upload it back to the Dropbox. So if you click on Dropbox, you know there's 2 Dropboxes. Make sure you put worksheet 3 in this Dropbox and worksheet 4 in this Dropbox. But let's look for a second at the handout. And let me pull up a calculator on the computer. Now, in this section, we're going to talk about multiplying fractions. And when you multiply fractions, all you do is multiply the numerator, the top numbers across, the denominators across, and then simplify. But in this problem, they show you how to go about simplifying by factoring. What we're going to do is just use our calculator. So if I'm wanting to take the problem 4 over 9 times 21 over 8, make sure you place parentheses around the fraction in the calculator. So let me go back to the calculator and move this over just a little. Move my calculator over. I'm going to turn the calculator on. I'm going to clear the screen by pushing the clear button. And then I want to type in this example, which is parenthesis 4 over 9. So on my calculator, notice there's parenthesis. I'm going to type 4 divided by 9, close parenthesis. And then if you look at your problem, it's times 21 over 8. So I'm going to do parenthesis 21 divided by 8, and I'm going to close parenthesis. Now on your screen, it should look just like what was on our paper. But to do a fraction, if I just push enter, it's going to give me a decimal answer. I need a fraction answer, so I'm going to go to the math button right here. If you look at your screen, it says fraction number 1. That's highlighted. I'm just going to go push enter twice. And when I do, I come up with 7 over 6. You can look and see on the paper where they went through the process of factoring, and then you can cross out all the numbers that are common in the numerator and denominator, and you get a 7 over 6. So on your paper, you're just going to work number 1 and 2 using your calculator. Be sure to place parentheses around all your fractions. Parentheses are the same thing as multiplication. Now, in dividing with fractions, what we always do is take the first fraction, change the sign to a multiplication, and take the reciprocal of the second fraction. You can see that's what they did in this step right here. Okay, right there. Okay, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually type this into my calculator and get my answer. So let's go back to our calculator. Let's push the clear button. Now, I'm going to take the problem that I'm given, the 3 over 10 divided by 12 over 25. I'm going to use parentheses. I'm going to type in 3 divided by 10. I'm going to close my parentheses. And then I'm going to push the divide button. When you do, it makes a fraction bar. That's the same thing as the division sign in our problem, okay? And then I'm going to come and I'm going to do parentheses 12 divided by 25. 12 divided by 25, close parenthesis, push enter. When I do, I get a decimal. Remember, you can push math, enter, and it will give me the solution, 5 over 8. Now, if you look at your problem, they converted it to multiplication, then they went through and factored each term, and then they reduced by canceling out things that are common. That's where they come up with a 5 or 8. You have 2 problems where you're going to do division, and so you want to just use your calculator, type it in. Notice there's a whole number that you're going to be dividing. Just take 15 divided by parenthesis, 25 over 8, close parenthesis. math, enter, enter. Now, the reason that we're reviewing this stuff and using the calculator is because in your statistics right now, you're probably working with some formulas that deal with the multiplication property. And here's the formula that says if you have the probability of event A and event B. Notice the word and. And means they occur at the same time. To find that probability, you are going to take and multiply the probability of A times probability of B. Well, your probabilities are sometimes written as fractions, sometimes they're written as decimals. Now, this example that they're giving you, or this exercise, they say, imagine throwing a coin and rolling a die at the same time. So if you think about that, if you're throwing a coin, you're going to get heads or tails for the coin. For rolling a die, you have 6 sides, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So what I did, I went through and I drew out the sample space to help you see what would happen. So the coin, if I was rolling the die and flipping a coin, I could roll a 1 and get heads, or 1 and get tails. I could roll a 2 and get heads, 2 and get tails, all the way down to 6. Now, they ask you a question in this problem. Let me find it again. I lost my page. Where did I go? Oh, here it is. They ask you a question is, what is probability of getting a heads and a 4? Heads and 4. If you look at our sample space, notice heads and 4, you have one outcome that's way. If you count all your different outcomes in the sample space, you will see that there are 12 of those. So my probability would end up being 1 over 12. Well, what they want you to do, instead of having to draw this out all the time, is use your formula that they've given us. If I want to know what's the probability of getting heads and heads and a 4, notice I would have to find the probability of getting heads times the probability of getting 4 and multiply those, and I would get the exact same thing as what I came out with on this. So what you're going to do, they gave you a hint. They said probability of heads would be 1 out of 2. We can see that right there, 1 out of 2. Probability of getting a 4 would be 1 out of 6. And if you take and multiply those, it's going to give you the probability of doing both of them at the same time. And we already know what the answer is going to be based on the sample space that I just showed you. The answer will end up 1 over 6. But what I want you to do is write out your formula. Take and write what's the probability of heads, write that fraction down, times what's the probability of getting the 4, write that fraction down and multiply it using your calculator. Okay, there's another exercise here that they give you the percentage of, it says USDA reports that all U.S. firms use diversity training. 38% state that their primary reason is to stay competitive. When you see a percent, remember all probability is written as decimal or fraction. When you see a percent, go ahead and convert that to a decimal. You move your decimal 2 places to the left, which you see underneath it, I have my probability, or just take 38 divided by 100 and you'll get your probability. Now you're going to use that value to answer these 2 questions. And you are going to use your formula that you have right here, okay? Probability of A and B is the probability A times probability of B. So they ask you what's the probability that in a sample 2 firms use diversity training. So you think about how many times you're going to multiply 0.038, okay, because you're dealing with 2 firms. Down here, we're going to deal with 7 firms. So instead of sitting there and doing 0.38 times 0.38 10 times, use exponents. And we talked about exponents on the last handout. So remember on your calculator, let me review for just a second. This little symbol above the division is for exponents. Say, for instance, I want 9. Whoops, I'm going to turn my calculator back on. Say I want 9 to the 4th power. I would do 9 caret sign and 4. Now, if you got a newer calculator, it's going to look different from this. It'd have 9 with a little exponent, but mine's older. So 9 to the 4th, push enter, and notice it'll give it to you. So that's how you do exponents, but you're going to use the probability they've given you in this raised to the 10th power. Hope this helps.